In cross-border inheritance cases involving Vietnam, family structures are often complex. Second marriages, blended families, children born abroad. Adoptions finalized in different jurisdictions, legal recognition becomes decisive. Under Vietnamese inheritance law, biological children who are legally recognized, under applicable civil status regulations, are first-line statutory heirs. Nationality or birthplace does not eliminate inheritance status. However, legal recognition of the parent-child relationship, under Vietnamese law, is essential. Stepchildren are not automatically considered statutory heirs under Vietnamese law. Marriage to a child's parent does not itself create inheritance rights. Without formal adoption, stepchildren do not inherit by default. A testator may freely leave assets to a stepchild through a valid will. In that case, the stepchild becomes a testamentary heir. However, compulsory heir protections for other qualified heirs may still apply. Legally adopted children are treated as biological children for inheritance purposes. Once adoption is validly recognized, adopted children become first-line heirs. They enjoy equal statutory rights. If adoption was finalized abroad, the parent-child relationship may need to be recognized under Vietnamese law before inheritance rights are exercised domestically. Vietnamese authorities assess compliance with the law on adoption, relevant international treaties, and mandatory legal principles. Without formal recognition, inheritance claims may face procedural challenges. Adoption certificates, court decisions, and civil status records must be legalized or apostilled where applicable and translated into Vietnamese. Procedural compliance determines enforceability in domestic proceedings. Adopted children may qualify as compulsory heirs under Vietnamese inheritance law. This means they may be entitled to a statutory minimum share of the estate. A will cannot automatically disinherit a protected adopted child. Under Vietnamese law, financial dependency alone does not convert a stepchild into a statutory heir. Unless formally adopted, a stepchild does not acquire inheritance rights by default, even if supported by the deceased. Any claim would require independent legal grounds, and judicial determination. Emotional or financial connection does not automatically create heir status. Disputes frequently arise in second marriages where the deceased supported stepchildren but did not formalize adoption. Biological children may challenge testamentary distributions favoring stepchildren. Clarity in documentation reduces litigation exposure. For removable property located in Vietnam, Vietnamese law governs inheritance. Whether a stepchild or adopted child can retain ownership depends on both inheritance law and property regulations. Eligibility must be reviewed separately. In multinational estates, adoption recognized abroad may not automatically be accepted in Vietnam. Parallel probate proceedings may interpret status differently. Coordination across jurisdictions is essential. Where children hold dual nationality, conflict of law principles may affect which inheritance rules apply to certain assets. Vietnamese law governs domestic property. Foreign law may govern overseas assets. For individuals in blended families, relying solely on statutory inheritance is rarely sufficient. Carefully drafted wills aligned with Vietnamese forced heirship principles reduce ambiguity. Asset-specific allocation enhances predictability. Where an adult adoption has occurred abroad, recognition in Vietnam depends on compliance with applicable adoption law and Vietnamese legal standards. Authorities will assess whether the adoption is legally valid and compatible with domestic mandatory rules. Inheritance rights depend on formal legal recognition, not personal designation. Inheritance tax exemptions in Vietnam often depend on recognized family relationship. If adoption is formally acknowledged, tax treatment may align with that of biological children. Classification affects financial outcome. Many families assume emotional bonds translate into automatic legal rights. In inheritance law, formal status governs distribution. Assumption is a frequent source of dispute. Where stepchildren are intended beneficiaries, formal adoption or clear testamentary provisions should be considered. Documentation must align with Vietnamese civil law requirements. Preventive clarity reduces post-death conflict. Stepchildren do not automatically inherit under Vietnamese statutory rules. Adopted children do, provided the adoption is legally recognized. In cross-border estates, status verification is the foundation of enforceability. In cross-border inheritance cases involving Vietnam, the distinction between stepchildren and adopted children is legally significant. Biological and legally adopted children are protected heirs. Stepchildren require explicit testamentary provision or formal adoption to secure rights. In complex families, structure must replace assumption. If your family structure includes stepchildren, adopted children, or cross-border adoptions, do not assume inheritance rights will align with personal expectations. Under Vietnamese law, legal status, not emotional connection, determines succession rights. Before relying on foreign adoption documents or informal family arrangements, ensure recognition and compliance with Vietnamese civil and inheritance law. To structure blended family estates across jurisdictions, contact LTS Law at lts.com.vn for strategic legal guidance. In cross-border families, clarity of status today prevents litigation tomorrow.